Thank you so much. We now would like to have the keynote speech. So, Mr. Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, via video message we have. So, please have a look.
Thank you for inviting me to speak with you today. Japan plays a very special role in BlackRock's history. My first international trip after founding the firm 35 years ago was to Japan, and it was a source of one of our earliest mandates. I'm grateful to all the hosts of today's events, as well as the ISSB, for creating an open dialogue around sustainability disclosures. It is an issue of critical importance to investors in the global capital markets. When my partners and I first founded BlackRock, we did so with a commitment to bring risk analytics powered by technology to every one of our clients. It was a cornerstone of BlackRock 35 years ago, and it's at the foundation of how we approach sustainability today. That's why we support comparable climate-related disclosures and have urged global coordination on a baseline standard. This is good for companies and good for investors. Investors need high-quality global comparable data. Companies want to be able to report under a single global standard, rather than meeting the reporting requirements of multiple jurisdictions. BlackRock's role in the transition to a low-carbon economy is as a fiduciary. We provide choice to our clients. We seek the best risk-adjusted returns within the mandates our clients give us. And we underpin our work with research, with data, and with analytics. It is critically important for global policymakers to consider sustainability regulation, including any disclosures, through that fiduciary lens, because the money we manage is not our own. It belongs to our clients, many of whom make their asset allocation and portfolio construction decisions. Many of our clients want to track the transition to lower carbon emissions, just as they track any other driver of investment risk. They come to us for unique investment insights and guidance, which is why we have put such an emphasis on data and analytics. Our clients want to ensure that material sustainability risk factors are incorporated into investment decisions and want to understand the extent to which they are priced in. They want to understand the likely future path of carbon emissions, how government policies will impact these paths, and what that means in terms of investment risk and opportunities. That is why we are also encouraged to see so many companies voluntarily reporting Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions. Public companies, however, include asset managers, cannot become the environmental police. That's the role of governments and regulators to move us towards a common regulatory framework, and then enforce it across both public companies and relevant private companies. We believe it is important to develop frameworks that both address both public and private companies. Frameworks that exclude private companies can have unintended consequences in all of the capital markets. They can create unnatural arbitrage where public companies may sell physical assets to private companies to avoid scrutiny, and private companies may be disincentivized from going public. Ultimately, these actions reduce choice for investors and negatively impact capital formation. We have seen encouraging signs of progress and collaboration across a diverse set of stakeholders. BlackRock was a founding member of the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, TCFD, which has the support from governments, from central banks, and thousands of organizations throughout the world. More than half of the companies in the S&P 500 now voluntarily report Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions, and I expect that number will continue to increase over time. This self-reporting is a good example of how we are seeing capitalism move forward towards a better understanding of the risks associated with the global energy transition. It is my sincere hope that we can move society and the economy forward so that companies and investors have the information they need to make data-based decisions. Markets, companies, and investors like clarity and certainty, and they need transparency. Regulators now have a rare opportunity with these disclosures to deliver that at a global scale. However, financial disclosures are just one element of how sustainability is changing our industry. The transition to a low-carbon economy is about much more than regulation and risk. It's an enormous opportunity and one that many of our clients want to be a part of. Last year, I wrote in my letter to CEOs that the next 1,000 unicorns won't be search engines or social media companies. They'll be sustainable, scalable innovators, startups that help the world decarbonize and make the energy transition affordable and fair and just for all consumers. We are already seeing early signs that the prediction will prove to be true, and data and analytics are just as important for identifying long-term opportunities are they in highlighting the risks. Probably as much of the debate around sustainability in financial services focused on regulations, but we are doing ourselves a disservice if we don't use these conversations to highlight the importance of a fair and just transition. If the global economy is to successfully transition over time to being more sustainable, we need to ensure that developing countries don't be left behind. Investments in low-carbon projects in poor countries will need a total of more than $1 trillion a year, more than 6 times the current rate of investment of about $150 billion. Governments can't finance this scale of investment alone, and emerging markets have struggled to attract private capital. Multilateral institutions like the IMF and the World Bank need to step in and provide the first lost capital that attracts private investments. While this will be a complex undertaking, there's an opportunity for them to play a pivotal role in the success of the transition and move us all forward. I'll conclude with this. Now that we have finally emerged from the pandemic, we need more conversations, we need more dialogue, and we need to do it together. That's why I'm so sorry I can't be with you in person. It's conferences, it's meetings and events like this where there's an exchange of ideas that lead to innovation, which is what we need to move society and the economy forward together. When it comes to sustainability, financial services disclosures are just one of the puzzle pieces in this complex picture. But I believe that if we can move forward together towards a global comparable standard of reporting, it will be a huge leap forward for investors, for companies, and for regulators around the world. Thank you.
We had a keynote speech by Mr. Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock. And now let's move on to the second panel discussion. So we're going to take some minutes to get ready on the stage. So all the speakers, would you please come up onto the stage?